emotionally, I'm becoming less and less comfortable with gold moving higher and higher. It's not that I don't want it to happen. It's that like every step it moves higher, I see that you can feel it in your bones that the monetary system is coming apart.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for September 23rd through September 30th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature the 1-ounce gold Argor Heraeus Dragon Bar at just $69 over spot. Next, the 2024 1-ounce silver American Eagle is just $5.25 over spot, the lowest premium in months. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is our good friend Rafi Farber from The Endgame Investor on Substack. Rafi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me again, Elijah.
Well, it's great to have you today. I did want to discuss what is happening in your country of Israel. It seems like there's a possible, not really confiscation, but a bill that is possibly going to be passed that would outlaw ownership of gold, is my understanding. You recently just spoke to an expert on this. What did you find?
Yeah. So I knew, I think it was a few days ago, and it's not like this was a surprise, but Israel has been caging us in terms of financial transactions for years, limiting cash transactions and from, let's say, $10,000. I'm speaking in dollar terms, but these are really shekel terms. So $10,000 maybe 10 years ago to $5,000 recently. And it's getting harder and harder to pay by cash. During the whole medical fiasco, they stopped accepting cash on buses as an excuse because they said that, cash carries viruses. It was ridiculous, but they were trying to clamp down on cash during that era for obvious reasons. And I saw this article on Ynet, which is the largest newspaper in Israel, a newspaper I also happen to be suing, by the way, for what they did to me during the medical tyranny and my family, but that's a different matter. So they were reporting on the 200 shekel bill that Netanyahu wanted to, I guess maybe by executive order or by passing a very quick bill to get rid of the 200 shekel bill as fast as possible or as soon as possible. And this, like on the eve of what looks to be an Israeli invasion of Lebanon, as the war comes to a crescendo, he's busy banning cash. So. I mean, the excuse is there's a whole underground economy, and not to say this isn't true. It's true, but it's irrelevant. Like there's a whole underground economy that uses 200 shekel bills, and if the threat to demonetize them means they're all deposited into bank accounts as fast as possible, because otherwise you lose the purchasing power, and then the government gets this like windfall of taxes they can tax when they see all the 200 shekel bills that go into the banking system, and then you can pay for the war. The other argument is that the Arabs in Gaza use 200 shekel bills to fund terrorism, what they want to call terrorism. Just them fighting. I mean, we're in a war, and that's true too. And so it's a way to sell it to the public, and the 200 shekel bill, and it'll help us in the war effort. And all the bad people that don't pay taxes will have to pay taxes, and then we can use that money to fund the rest of the war. It sounds nice to the Israeli public ear, even though they don't understand what the point is. The point is to box us in and to make cash irrelevant, make cash illegal, so that every single transaction is tracked, right? And then you can't evade taxes at all. Not that I'm encouraging anyone to evade taxes, chas v'shalom, God forbid I would ever say something like that. But the effect of this, before we get to gold and silver, would be if you're there's a lot of outdoor markets are very popular in Israel. There's a permanent one in Jerusalem. There's a permanent one in Tel Aviv called Shuka Carmel. And here in the northern towns, they come once a week to this designated outside spot, and almost everybody uses cash, right? So most of and a lot of Drusim sell, a lot of Arabs sell, and they're not going to report most of it or any of it. I don't know what they report, but But people who sell, like the poorest people, they're not going to report, like a 15-year-old is not going to report the babysitting income that she got, that she's been saving up for 10 years for a trip to India when she's done with the army, right? They're not going to report this stuff. And so everyone's going to have to report stuff now because they're cracking down on cash. And then what happens? Like you have to pay VAT, you got to pay income taxes, you got to pay bituach leumi. The whole thing comes to like 50-60%. Now imagine if you're not paying any taxes and all of a sudden you have to pay 50% of your income. What's going to happen to your prices? Well, either you're going to have to really cut down on everything and cut down on supply and prices are going to go berserk, or you're going to have to raise your prices in order to cover the taxes that you suddenly have to pay, and prices are going to go berserk. That, and there are entire sectors of Israeli society that use only cash. One of them is Israeli Arabs. Or Arabs, they use cash. A lot of them aren't banked. And the other is the ultra-Orthodox Jews, the Haredi Jews, and they use mostly cash. Now, they have some banks, they don't say they're completely unbanked, but they use a lot of cash. And all these people are suddenly going to have to pay tax. This is like a huge portion of the population. So it's a huge shock to the economy. Supply and demand have to adjust radically, very, very quickly. And, it's going to be a big mess, exactly like it was in India. So then I read two more articles. One was that included in this bill, which I learned from Gilad Alper, who is an Israeli economist, libertarian. I think he's Chicago School. I talked to him on my YouTube channel. If you check it out there, had a whole interview with him in English. He's very good English. So he had tweeted out that included in this bill is a restriction. It's undefined, right? These are suggestions to the finance ministry by a group of insane economists that they're just like, they're court economists, like, state Keynesian type evil bad people. And they recommended a restriction on cash substitutes, what they call cash substitutes, including gold, silver, medallions, and those sorts of things. So there's no number. I don't know how they're going to define it. This isn't even a bill yet. It's a series of suggestions by a group of academics to the finance ministry. And the finance ministry, I should tell you, is headed by one of the worst politicians in Israel, arguably even worse than Netanyahu. This guy's name is Bezalel Smotrich, and he was horrible. He was the worst during the COVID era. I mean, he had proposed locking the dissidents in their houses permanently until they submitted to what we call medical rape. Permanently, this was his idea. This guy is totally nuts. And he's in charge of the country's finances. So if this is coming from him, I wouldn't be surprised. The guy's evil. And then, before we go to the next question, the last thing I saw was that the Bank of Israel was upset about this because they're the ones in charge of literally printing the 200 shekel bills. And it could be that somebody in there has some inkling of sanity to suggest that maybe this isn't a good idea right now to give a huge shock to the economy as we're about to invade Lebanon, and who knows what's going to happen, and who knows how many soldiers we're going to lose, and how many funerals we're going to. It's just a huge mess, and that this is coming out now is completely insane. So are we going to know a few weeks, a few months if this is going to go through? We'll see. And if you want to learn more about what Gilad Alper thinks, look at my channel on this topic. It's the last video.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put a link to that interview in the description of this video here so people can check that out. Now, when it comes to gold, I mean, it seems like this bill is mainly focused on removing these proposals are mainly focused on removing the 200 shekel note. But can you expand a little bit more? I'm sorry if you have to repeat yourself, but how this has to do with gold bullion in particular? Yeah,
well, look, in my way of thinking, and I think my way of thinking is the right way of thinking about this, a shekel is just a derivative, right? It's there's a pyramid, right? The pyramid starts with gold and silver. On top of that are fiat currencies beginning with the dollar and then other dollar derivatives. The shekel on the pyramid is a dollar derivative because the shekel is a unit of liability of the Bank of Israel. And the Bank of Israel doesn't own any gold. They own dollars. Theoretically, the Fed owns some gold or gold certificates that are in Fort Knox, representing about 8,000 tons or whatever it is. So the shekel is a dollar derivative and the dollar is a gold derivative. So the point the point is that when you give somebody a 200 shekel bill, the government can't track it. So but the reason that people use 200 shekel bills at all is because they're functional dollar derivatives, which are functional gold derivatives. So if you want to stay out of the system, you don't have to use shekels. You can use other foreign currencies, right? If there's no shekel cash, there's going to be dollar bills trading around and euros and whatever else is going to be trading around in Israel. I remember when I made Aliyah, when I moved here in 2007, my rent, when I first moved, was in dollars. It was not in shekels because the shekel was a lot more unstable back then in 2007. It kept changing value, and so landlords couldn't really charge their rent in shekels. So we used dollars. I gave cash to my landlord. That was in 2007. But logically, if the shekel works but you don't have cash, and let's say the dollar doesn't work, or even if it does, you can still pass around gold or silver coins, gold for big purchases. You could, if there's no functional currency, you could give gold to your landlord or to whoever else to pay for goods and services. Because if there's no other cash and you want to keep your transactions to yourself, then you do it outside the bank system. You do it with gold and silver coins. Obviously, we're not going to use gold and silver coins directly until there's really no currency that's functional. But that's what's going to happen when it's no longer functional. So in order to lock us into a financial prison, you not only have to lock us out of cash, you have to lock people out of all foreign currencies, and then you got to lock people out of gold, which is basically what FDR did, right? But it's a very different matter to lock people out of gold at a time when the dollar or the currency is rising in purchasing power, as it was during the Great Depression. People needed dollars desperately, so they were okay with selling their gold to the Fed in exchange for $21 and whatever cents it was. But in a hyperinflationary economy, people are not going to be so keen on just giving up their gold to the government. It's going to be a mess. I don't even know if they can do it practically.
How does this change your thinking as it comes to the end game, as you're talking about? If your personal ownership of precious metals is going to be curtailed, then what does that mean? How are you looking at this, and how is this going to impact the way that you're preparing, if at all?
It's going to impact it. First of all, I don't know if I'm going to be affected. I don't think they're going to say you can't own any gold at all, because that's insane. Because a lot of people have some amount of gold, and let's say they're going after everyone who owns 5-6 ounces or whatever. That's they don't have the manpower to do that. No time to do that. And I don't think that's what they're going to aim at. I think they're going to aim at the big, really rich people, just like the income tax started with the super wealthy with Woodrow Wilson, the top 1%. I think they're going to go after the big businessmen who they suspect or know have a sizable amount of gold somewhere in a vault somewhere. I don't think there's that many people. But once I see what is going to be restricted, in the one hand, you could say, why am I talking about this? But on the other hand, I've already talked about it. So I can't really hide. Everybody knows who I am. And if the Israeli authorities want to figure out who has gold, they just got to go to YouTube. They'll find me. There's nothing else. There's nothing I can hide. Right. So my idea is basically, if Israel wants to go door to door, I don't think they're going to. Right now, this is just a suggestion. Let's not go too far with it. It's just an idea, and it could be shot down by the Bank of Israel, which is not very intent on banning the 200 shekel bill now. And let's remember also that Israel had a hyperinflationary episode in 1984. Right, the old shekel died. It's called the new shekel for a reason, and they didn't ban gold and silver back then. And so basically, my idea is I don't have that much gold. I don't have piles of it. I'm not Scrooge McDuck. I have a little bit. But that's it. So what can I do? I can make a menorah out of it. I can make a Kiddush cup out of it, or something like that, or some kind of religious article. The Israeli government is not going to come here with jackbooted thugs stealing religious Jewish articles from its citizenry because that looks exactly like Nazis. They're not going to do it. There's a wall here. Okay. Big government, and this country was founded by communists. I understand that, but Judaism is bigger and it's more powerful than they are. because we all know where we come from. So I can hide behind that. I'm confident I can. And, ultimately it's all up to God. And I'm staying here because I know that I'm not going to escape gold confiscation by leaving, because if it happens here, it's going to happen everywhere else too. We led people into the medical tyranny. If we choose to, we will lead people into financial tyranny. It's up to us. And I hope this time we choose the right thing and we get that maniac out of the finance ministry as soon as possible. I don't know how, or God just steps in and saves us from our own insanity.
It seems like things are escalating quite a bit. If we just look around the world, obviously wars all around the world and in Israel. Right now, we're also seeing gold at all-time highs, making new all-time highs almost every day now. I did want to get into those topics as well. Where would you like to start? Let's talk about gold. New all-time highs almost every day now. When's the last time it went down? I don't even know. Let's just like step away for a second from the price action. I think Alistair McLeod is writing a lot about the COT reports and the managed money, and he has a lot to say about that. You can go check him out for the technicals on that, and he knows a lot more about that than I do. But what I have noticed is that emotionally, I'm becoming less and less comfortable with gold moving higher and higher. And if that's what's happening, it's not that I don't want it to happen. It's that like every step it moves higher, I see that you can feel it in your bones that the monetary system is coming apart. Like gold at 2,400, gold at 2,500, gold at 2,600 just doesn't stop. It's almost at 2,700 now. It's like 2,680, 2,690, something like that. And I look at the number. I'm like, good, okay, we're closer. And then I look at the news, and another bomb flies over my head, and there's an explosion. And Iron Dome. Is there an Iron Dome? I don't even know if there is an Iron Dome. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just a fireworks show. It's like everything is becoming just like all at once in my brain, which is one of the reasons why I suspended my Twitter account temporarily. If you can't find me on Twitter, that's the reason. I just need to disconnect from it for a little bit, because it's one thing to look at the gold price as it goes up and then cheer, and then remember that you are a stacker, and like, okay, you thought of this and you're proud, good for you, pat yourself on the back, and then all of a sudden you hear this huge bomb, and then all your kids have to run downstairs as the siren wails, and you have to hide in the bathroom. I mean, it's a very different experience. So it's all coming in at once, and it's kind of hard to handle right now. So I'm meditating. I'm breathing. I'm thanking God that I already did my army service, and they're not going to call me up. That was like 10 years ago. More. How old am I? It was like 15 years ago. And I'm just praying for my friends who were called up today, and soldiers are massing themselves in the Lebanese border. Now there's rumors of, is the war going to stop? Is there going to be some kind of diplomatic deal before we invade? And I just heard another plane go over my head. He's probably off to Lebanon. So you see, I'm just giving you a general idea of what's going on here. It's a lot. It is a lot going on. And I think it's important, as you mentioned, to kind of step back and look at what we can control. You mentioned, going off of Twitter for a while, which I think, a lot of us, if we did that, our lives would be better off. So did you want to share with our viewers kind of some of maybe the preparedness steps, or the steps that people can take to kind of take a step back and look at more of the things that we can control, rather than worrying about things that we can't control?
Yeah. Look, the first practical thing you can do, there's a lot of social isolation in America. If you live in the city, I'd say get out. If you live in the suburbs, go knock on your neighbor's door and say hi and have a coffee. Introduce yourself. If you don't know your neighbors, get to know your neighbors, get to know your block. Share what you can do. Share how your skills. Have a conversation. Just be friendly with your neighbors and the people around you. That's already happened on my block. When you're all like, scurrying, finding the nearest bomb shelter, and there's one in every block in my city because that's how they built it. it makes you closer. It was a few weeks ago we went into a bomb shelter with a family I'd never seen before. That's 1 block away from me, and now when I see them on the street, like, hey, we're like bomb shelter buddies. It builds your community. So more important than anything you have in your house beyond maybe a bunch of bottles of water and some canned food and some ammunition and bullets, you want to have friends. You want to have people that you can rely on, people who can rely on you, so that you don't see people next to you as competition, but more as allies and friends and people that can help you through this. Just gather the skills of the people, know what they can do for you, know what you can do for them, and be frank and be candid with them that, if something bad happens, you'll be there for them, and you hope that they'll be there for you. More than materials, it's more about emotions. If you're all calm when this happens, because you have enough water, because you have enough food, because you have enough ammunition, and you know the people around you, you'll be much stronger than if you have a huge amount of resources and you're worried about somebody coming into your house and taking it all. It's not going to make you calm. You want to stay calm, you want to stay collected, and you want to stay strong with your community. That's the most important thing.
Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate this update, Rafi, from you regarding, the logical consequences of these movements in Israel that seem to be, eventually this could lead to the criminalization of owning gold and silver. And I think it's important to realize this might not just happen in Israel, but could happen other areas around the world as well. So, and here in the US. So we really appreciate this update from you. Any last thoughts before we let you go? And did you want to share with the viewers where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Substack, endgameinvestor.substack.com. You can check out my YouTube channel. There's going to be a link to the latest video there. It's just my name, Rafi Farber. And if you want to learn with me about economics and the Bible, I was able to find a proto or an intimation of Austrian school cycle in the book of Micha and the book of Micah. I think maybe I told you that last time. I just published it. So if you're interested in ancient economics from a biblical perspective, then check out my Patreon at patreon.com/endgameinvestor. And just stay calm. I'm telling myself.
Sounds good. I think it's good for us all to tell ourselves that. So thank you so much for your time today, Rafi, and God bless.
Thanks.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for September 23rd through September 30th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature the 1-ounce gold Argor Heraeus Dragon Bar at just $69 over spot. Next, the 2024 1-ounce silver American Eagle is just $5.25 over spot, the lowest premium in months. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.